One of the many concepts that Viktor Frankl has touched upon in his world-famous book Man's Search for Meaning, and that particularly caught my attention, is anticipatory anxiety. Experts define anticipatory anxiety as the worry about the future, the fear that bad things might happen or that we might become unable to successfully accomplish what we set out to do. It is the expectation of distress. Anticipatory anxiety is a third layer of fear, if you will. The first layer is fear of something, like fear of spiders. The second layer is the fear of being afraid. We might fear spiders so much that we're worried that when we see one, we could have a panic attack. And then the third layer is the fear of being afraid of being afraid. There might be a corner of the house, for example in the attic, where we don't clean often and where we've seen spiders before, and we need to go there to fetch something. We are scared of going to the attic because we know that there might be spiders there and we might have a panic attack. This fear could start moments before going to the attic or even hours or days. As a result, we might not go to the attic at all, or we might send someone else. Many people can feel anticipatory anxiety when interviewing for a job, usually because they think of how badly the interview could go. The fear starts hours or days before the day of the interview, and probably no one would even show up at the interview if they weren't constrained to for one reason or another. In the workplace, anticipatory anxiety could be regarding our image, our performance, or our relationships. Some examples include when we have to give a presentation on a set date. Long before then, when we think about it, we might start experiencing signs of anxiety, such as faster heartbeats, excessive perspiration, trouble sleeping. When we are particularly worried about making a good impression on our colleagues, even the thought that we have to do certain things, like make jokes or be a good listener, could give us anticipatory anxiety. If at a yearly event something happened that we did not like, it made us lose face, or we just made a mistake, when the same event next year approaches, we start feeling anxious about going. The number one thing that anticipatory anxiety leads to is avoidance. When something scares us so much so that we reach the third layer of fear, when we're not even near the anxiety-inducing thing or event, we tend to avoid it. The way anticipatory anxiety generally shows up is in OCD compulsions, insomnia, or as tension in the body that we might not even be aware of. Now, these reasons are enough to make us want to get rid of this kind of anxiety. And the thing is, according to Frankl, anticipatory anxiety, which he defines as the fear of a given outcome, makes that outcome more likely. To get rid of anticipatory anxiety, we have to, firstly, find out why we have anticipatory anxiety in the first place. There are a few reasons why we might experience anticipatory anxiety. One reason is a very active imagination. Another one is a trait called anxiety sensitivity. Another could be memories in the past that have given life to this kind of fear, which could now show up at moments that have nothing to do with the memories. Yet another reason is the belief that one lacks the capability to cope with challenges. Frankl developed his own psychotherapy, which he called logotherapy, which means that the motivational force of a human being is finding a meaning in their life. Frankl claims that logotherapy can be used to overcome anxiety and anticipatory anxiety. For instance, to overcome anxiety, he says that by asking ourselves what the purpose of the action that makes us anxious is, we define our responsibility clearly, which gives us a meaning behind our anxiety. To overcome anticipatory anxiety, logotherapy offers what is called paradoxical intention. What paradoxical intention is the application of exaggeration and humor to the anxiety-inducing thought or action. Since most anxieties are performance issues, logotherapy claims that by imagining an exaggerated response to our thought or action, we can observe the non-catastrophic consequences of our thought or action, which serves to prove to us the low likelihood of our feared consequences happening, and so reducing our level of anxiety. In the same line of thought, what therapists suggest that we do to overcome anticipatory anxiety is the following. 1. Ask yourself, what if? Instead of trying to stop our thoughts when anticipatory anxiety hits us, we should keep going. We should ask ourselves, what if I do mess up during my presentation? What would happen then? Would people start laughing? Would it somehow damage my position at work? What if it does damage my position? What would happen then? Would I be fired over it? What then? If I'm fired, what if I went ahead and took some time off or applied for another position to another company. This step is in a way similar to Frankl's paradoxical intention, in that we could push the event to the extreme and realize how ridiculous our feared end result really is. On the other hand, by going to the bottom of the question, what if, we actually think of all, or almost all, possible bad end results and be prepared with what to do next if any of those end results happens. 2. Bring yourself back to the present moment. When we experience anticipatory anxiety, we are mentally and emotionally in some moment in the future. Having done the first step, where we thought of what could happen that we fear, and what we would do if that were to really happen, we should no longer allow ourselves to keep going to the same fear-inducing event of the future. What we should do instead is bring ourselves to the present moment. We have done what is in our power to do, so it is now useless that we keep doing the same thing over and over again. 3. Look for evidence. When we feel anxious about a future event, what generally happens is we are completely in our head. We don't think that there could be explanations not related to us at all for why someone would laugh during our presentation, for example. What helps with this is looking for evidence in past events when something similar happened. We might very easily see that their reaction was not to our presentation at all, but to something that the person sitting next to them said. When we don't have a past reference for our event, or when the references that we do have are not that positive, then we shouldn't be looking for evidence. Instead, we should append a question mark to every possible end result, in the sense that we should consider that any bad result that we fear that could happen might happen because of one reason or another that has little to nothing to do with us. I don't advocate for we should keep doing what we're doing regardless of other people's reactions, that nothing is our fault. This is what stops us from getting better. But I do think that we tend to put too much pressure on ourselves, thinking that someone's reaction has for sure something to do with us, and we forget to consider that it might actually have little to do with us and a lot to do with the other person. Anticipatory anxiety could be a reason why many of us avoid doing something that could make our life better. And something that could happen when we have anticipatory anxiety around a certain action is that over time we start developing anxieties around other thoughts, actions, or events. This is why I thought this was a topic worth talking about in this video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.